Hello everyone. Today we will follow a story full of twists and dangers, centered around the life of Dieuhan, a single mother living quietly in a small garden at the edge of the village. But that peaceful life is soon disrupted by someone from the past, returning with dark intentions. The story begins with Ouan, whose stepfather is Mr. Chien, a man with a respectable appearance, but a calculating and ruthless heart. One day, Ouan's younger brother Fouche suffers heavy business losses. Drowning in debt and desperate, he turns to his father for help. But instead of supporting his son through honest means, Mr. Chien chooses the cruelest path imaginable, selling his stepdaughter, Ouan, to repay his son's debts. He devised a plan to marry off Ouan to a wealthy old man under the guise of a business matchmaking, when in fact, it was a human trafficking deal. But Ouan, though still young, quickly realized the dark scheme. She refused to let her fate be determined like a commodity. So, Ouan fled from home with only a few old clothes. She didn't know where to go, only that she had to escape at all costs. In her most desperate moment, she met Dieuhan, a man who offered her shelter in his garden home. Around the same time, Han, having come from Jaglak to find her birth parents, was taken in by Ouan, who helped her with a place to stay. Everything seemed to be settling down until Mr. Chien tracked Ouan down and decided to show up at her house to stir up trouble once again. One afternoon, in a house already cold from a lack of love, Mr. Chien sat im lang ben kan mot kok tra lan. His eyes stared intently out the window, where the golden hues of sunset streamed in as if he were brooding over something deeply sinister. He turned to Mrs. Chien, his long-suffering wife who had endured his cruelty for years. His voice was hoarse as he spoke. "See if there's anything of value left in this house. Sell it all to pay Fuchs's debts." But Mrs. Chien only sighed. She shook her head, eyes sweeping over the nearly empty room. "There's nothing left. An old table and chairs, a broken TV, worn-out clothes, who would buy them?" The room sank into silence, but in that moment, something cold and cruel sparked in Mr. Chien's mind. He furrowed his brows, slammed the table, and stood up abruptly. "There's still Ouan. I'll make her marry that man." Without hesitation, Mr. Chien lit a cigarette, inhaling deeply. When the cigarette burned down to the filter, he flicked the butt to the ground, crushed it underfoot, and turned away, following the trail that led to Ouan's new home. He walked through small villages, asking questions, pressing for information. At last, after hours of wandering, Mr. Chien stood before a small house hidden behind a fence of creeping vines where Dieuhan and Ouan were staying. He didn't rush in. He stood silently at the gate for a long moment, eyes scanning the surroundings. No sounds, no voices. The house appeared empty. Luckily for Han and Ouan, they had gone out early that morning. Had they been home, the outcome might have been very different. Mr. Chien Kong cho them. He slipped through the loosely closed gate and walked straight into the yard as if it were his own home. He ransacked the place, opening cupboards, flipping mattresses, checking every drawer, hoping to find cash, valuables, ID papers, or anything that could be pawned. But there was nothing. He collapsed under the tree in front of the house. Mr. Chien decided to stay, unaware that Ouan and Han were already on their way back, completely unaware that the devil himself was now sitting inside their very home. Mr. Chien remained silently seated beneath the tree. The atmosphere had grown thick and heavy, tainted by the intrusive presence of someone once called family. More than an hour had passed. Ouan and Han had yet to return. Then, suddenly, a sound broke the stillness. The distant hum of a motorbike echoed from afar, faint at first, then growing louder. Startled, Mr. Chien sprang to his feet. He rushed to the door, peeking outside through a narrow slit. A familiar figure was approaching the gate, It was the Ouan, the owner of the garden where Uyen had been staying. At that very moment, Mr. Chin's heart pounded violently in his chest. He hadn't expected the first person to return to be this man, not Uyen, as he had hoped. Without wasting a second, he retreated in a panic, stepping lightly like a thief in the night. He crept along the side of the house, slipped out through the back, and crouched behind a hibiscus bush near the fence. From between the leaves, Mr. Chin held his breath and watched. The Ouan turned off his bike, set the kickstand, and walked to the front door. He called out loudly, "Uyen, Dieuhan, is anyone home?" There was no answer. He looked inside, then turned back again. Seeing nothing unusual and hearing no sound, he eventually decided to leave. For now, the danger had passed. As the sun began to sink behind the mountains, golden rays bathed the worn-tiled roof of the small house nestled in the quiet garden. No one would have guessed that just moments earlier, this peaceful place had nearly become the stage for a dark and twisted drama. But fate, it seemed, had given Uyen and Han one more chance. Along the dirt path leading home, a thin woman with tangled hair blown wild by wind and dust walked slowly, holding the hand of a small child. It was Dieuhan, guiding her young son beside her. Her journey today in search of clues about her birth parents had once again led to a dead end. The elderly villagers she visited either shook their heads, spoke vaguely, or shared stories as hazy as morning mist. She knew she couldn't give up, but right now, she had to return to care for Uyen, the only friend who had always stood by her side. As she reached the old wooden gate, Han paused. Something felt off. She pushed the gate open gently and stepped inside. The yard was empty. No sign of Uyen. The house door was ajar. A quiet unease crept into Han's heart as she called out, "Uyen! Uyen, where are you?" No reply. Frowning, Han stepped into the house. She laid little Tom down on the mattress and gently covered him with a thin cloth. Then she headed to the kitchen, planning to prepare a warm meal for Uyen. What Han didn't know was that danger still lurked somewhere beyond the hedges, beneath the trees, or perhaps hiding within the heart of a man willing to trade everything for a debt of blood. Will Mr. Chin stop here, or is this just the beginning of an even more dangerous plan? Stay tuned for the next part. Uyen walked him all the way to the gate. Han watched his figure fade behind the row of bougainvillea, her heart suddenly feeling lighter. She no longer felt the loneliness that had haunted her in the early days. Now, at least, she had someone to walk alongside her. There was hope, and there were kind-hearted people by her side. That night, Han sat by the window holding the printed page with the photo and information about her parents she had just found. Her heart beat loudly with every thump. She was so close to the truth. She could feel it. The day of reunion wasn't far away. And yet, a question stirred in her heart. Would her parents come back to find her? Or would she have to go even further, perhaps all the way down south, to the place where her childhood had been severed? There was no one to answer that question, but Han knew she couldn't stop now. She would keep searching for her mother, for her father, and for herself and her little son. What will Han discover in the journey ahead? What secrets lie waiting to be uncovered? And are her mother and father from long ago somewhere out there, also waiting for her? Let's find out together in the next episode of The Journey Home, the story of single mother Dieuhan and her search for her roots.
Tạm thời nguy hiểm đã qua đi, khi mặt trời bắt đầu ngả về phía chân núi, ánh nắng vàng rọi xuống mái ngói cũ kỹ của căn nhà nhỏ giữa khu vườn tĩnh lặng. Không ai biết rằng chỉ mới vài phút trước, nơi đây đã suýt trở thành sân khấu cho một màn kịch đen tối. Nhưng định mệnh vẫn còn cho Uyên và Hân một cơ hội. Trên con đường mòn về nhà, một bóng dáng phụ nữ gầy gò, mái tóc rối tung bởi gió bụi, đang bước đi thật chậm với đứa trẻ nhỏ. Đó là Diệu Hân. Hân vừa đi vừa dắt tay cậu con trai. Hành trình đi tìm tin tức về cha mẹ ruột của cô ngày hôm nay lại một lần nữa rơi vào ngõ cụt. Những người già trong làng mà cô tìm đến đều lắc đầu, hoặc không nói rõ, hoặc chỉ kể lại những câu chuyện mơ hồ như sương sớm. Cô biết mình không thể bỏ cuộc. Ngay lúc này, cô cần trở về để chăm sóc cho Uyên, người bạn duy nhất vẫn luôn sát cánh bên cô. Khi bước đến cánh cổng tre mục, Hân khựng lại một chút. Không hiểu sao, cô cảm thấy có điều gì đó lạ lẫm. Cô đẩy nhẹ cửa bước vào. Nhìn quanh sân, không có bóng Uyên. Cửa nhà khép hờ. Lòng Hân hơi lo lắng. Cô gọi lớn: "Uyên ơi, Uyên!" Không một lời đáp. Hân nhíu mày bước vào trong nhà, đặt đế tôm xuống nệm. Hân nhẹ nhàng phủ chiếc khăn mỏng lên người con trai, rồi quay vào bếp chuẩn bị nấu ăn cho Uyên. Hân không hề hay biết rằng nguy hiểm vẫn đang rình rập đâu đó sau hàng cây, ngoài rìa khu vườn, hay ngay bên trong trái tim một con người sẵn sàng bán rẻ tất cả vì muốn nợ máu thịt. Liệu ông chính có dừng lại, hay đây chỉ mới là khởi đầu của một kế hoạch nguy hiểm hơn? Hãy cùng mình chờ đón phần tiếp theo.